The anime starts by showing us a remote village in the mountains, where a woman is giving birth to twins. The old woman helping her asks her not to give birth yet because it's almost dawn. The other woman assisting her tells the granny that she can't ask for something like that, but the old woman insists, saying that she has to do it, even if it's impossible. After all, these children will be the ones who command the demons. Later that day, a man sees the twin siblings and realizes that the children who sunder day and night have been born. 16 years later, one of these children, Yuru, is now in the woods, hunting a pheasant with his bow. The arrow lodges in the bird's neck, and just when Yuru approaches the pheasant to pick it up, he sees a condensation trail in the sky. He doesn't give it much importance, and just says that it's a beautiful dragon's fart. Yuru hops onto his horse to return to the village, where his friend Danji is already waiting for him. Danji is happy to see him, but he also scolds him for going hunting alone again without telling him. Yuru apologizes, and Danji asks him what he'd do if something happens to him all alone in the mountains, since he can't just call for help. Despite this, Yuru dismisses his concern and reminds him that if something happens, then the divine guardians right and left will protect him. Danji completely leaves the subject aside when he notices that Yuru caught a pheasant. He gets really excited and says that they can have grilled bird, but Yuru tells him that a hot pot is better because it's more satisfying. The other villagers welcome Yuru back, and he casually mentions that the weather looks like it's going to get bad. The man wonders if they're going to finally get some rain, since it's been a while, and Yuru tells him that he'll be back to help them with work later. After a while, he meets with the two women who assisted his mother when he and his sister were born. The old woman, Yamaha, welcomes him back, and Danji's mother scolds her son, saying that he should come and help him. However, as soon as he sees his mother, Danji runs away, so his mother complains and tells him that he should learn to be a hard worker like Yuru. Yuru asks the granny for his sister, Asa, and the old woman tells him that she's doing good, doing her duty properly as always. He decides to go where his sister is anyway to check on her, and Asa kindly welcomes him back with a smile, even though she's behind a cell for some reason. Yuru smiles back at her and tells her that he caught a pheasant today, though he doesn't really think that he's amazing at all, like she says. After all, he actually wanted to catch a boar or a deer because there hasn't been much rain this year, and he's worried about the harvest. There might be less food this winter, so he has to hunt more and make dried or salted meat. Asa asks him if the adults of the village will leave for the outside world to find work. Yuru tells her that something like that is possible, and she then asks him if he will go too. He immediately denies it and asks her why she thinks he trained himself to hunt. Yuru explains that if he becomes indispensable to the village for hunting, then he won't need to leave. Still, Asa asks the same question again, wanting to know if he won't leave like their parents did. Yuru asks her not to worry and assures her that he will never leave this village, because as long as she's here, he will always be with her to protect her. Asa finally smiles, feeling much better now, and that's when Danji's mother enters the room to inform Yuru that Dara is here. Outside, a lot of people gather around Dara, who brought things from the people who went to the outside world to the village. He mentions that the economy is pretty bad out there and there is a pandemic as well, which is why he wants to trade with some herbs today. Some villagers trade their herbs for salt or some vegetable seeds that can grow in drought. A woman approaches Dara and mentions that her daughter will soon be 7, so he tells her that he'll bring a witch doctor next time in that case. An old woman tells him that she got some bad headaches lately, so Dara gives her the usual painkillers. When he sees Yuru, he asks him if there is anything he wants, but before he can even answer, Dara throws a beautiful tamari ball at him, knowing that Yuru would only want a souvenir for Asa. Yuru doesn't deny it and thanks him, and after Dara leaves, Danji mentions that he wants to leave this village too. Yuru just asks him if the world out there is really that great, and Danji reminds him that the people who left rarely return, so the outside world must be a pretty good place. Yuru tells him that he wouldn't be so sure about that, and mentions that he wouldn't mind living in this village his whole life. Danji knows that he's only saying that because he's got a cute little sister to protect, but he tells him that they should leave this place together in that case. He also mentions that if he's uneasy about it, then he could go with them, though Yuru clarifies that hanging around him would only corrupt Asa. Danji gets offended by the comment, but Yuru reminds him that Asa's got a really important job to perform. Despite this, Danji tells him that he's never met Asa in the first place, and Yuru explains that only certain people are allowed to see her, so an oaf like him will never meet her. Before they can continue with their usual bantering, Yuru sees what he thinks are perfect trails of dragon gas. However, this time, it's not the usual roar, since he's heard this a few times while hunting deep in the mountains, but it's kind of loud now. Danji asks him if he's ever seen a dragon before, but Yuru admits that he's never seen one. Before they know it, the sound of an explosion is heard, and what looked like a normal, deserted mountain before shows the outside world that there's a village hidden there. Both Yuru and Danji soon realize that what they thought was a trail of dragon gas is actually not being produced by a dragon, but a plane. Of course, they don't have the slightest idea of what that is, and soon, a helicopter also appears. All the villagers stare at the sky in awe, having no idea what's going on, and before they know it, they start getting killed, one by one. Yamaha sees everything and realizes that the barrier has been broken, and even though she doesn't know how, she knows that they're here for Yuru. She warns some villagers that they have to find Yuru and hide him right away, so she asks them to bring him to her. Danji starts panicking when he realizes everyone's dead, but Yuru inspects the bodies and starts running, asking him to stay close. Danji quickly runs after him and just hopes that his mother mother is alive. After running for a while, they come across two armed men wearing military uniforms. As soon as they see Yuru, one of them immediately informs his squad that they've found him. Yuru doesn't waste any time and uses his bow to shoot an arrow to each one of them before they can attack. Danji is almost shot by one of them, and even though they don't know what those weapons are, it's clear that it seems lethal. That's why Yuru quickly approaches the men to knock them out and continues running. Danji sees two helicopters and says that those dragons are near the outer area, but Yuru tells him that he doesn't think they can beat them, and he doesn't even know if those things are dragons. After a while running, the two of them reach the divine guardian statues, and Danji mentions that his mother is probably working at the keep like usual. Yuru approaches one of the statues and asks him to help him move some rocks out of the way. Soon, he manages to open a hidden door and explains that it's a shortcut to the keep. Danji had no idea there was such a thing, so Yuru reminds him that he said that the divine guardians right and left will protect them. They immediately take the shortcut, and Yuru just hopes that Asa is alright. In the meantime, a girl with a red jacket named Gabby approaches the remaining villagers outside and greets them with a smile. Everyone just stares at her, clearly scared and confused, but before they can do anything, Gabby just says one word, and one of the villagers' bodies is completely torn apart in a second. She repeats the same word several times, easily creating a sea of blood and body parts in the village by only saying the word gobble. Everything happens too fast, but the woman from before tries to run away with her daughter. However, Gabby easily kills her, ripping the head off her body after repeating the same word. The little girl stares at her mother's lifeless body in horror, trying to process what just happened. Gabby then approaches her with a smile and clarifies that she doesn't bite kids. A man who lost both his hands tries to escape the place, but Gabby kills him before he can get away, and his blood splatters around, traumatizing the poor little girl even more. Unable to bear all of this, the little girl passes out, and Gabby nonchalantly makes a call to inform her squad that the outer and middle areas are mostly secure, so they can send the ground forces up here. For some reason, she gets no response from the ground forces, and that's when we see that Dara took care of them himself. He's apparently not surprised about the situation and just wonders what he's going to do about this, since the barrier has been broken. Dara decides to make a call, and when he sees that it actually got through, he realizes that the situation is truly bad. He talks to a woman named Hana on the phone and asks her if she can see smoke from where she is. After getting her answer, he then asks her if they can change the rendezvous point because he thinks that Asa is here. In another scene, we see a woman dragging Yamaha's body to Asa's cell, and with no hesitation, she raises her fist to make the cell explode. The force of the explosion impacts directly on Asa's head, and Yuru arrives just in time to see his sister laying on the floor, motionless. He calls for her name in panic, and just then, the woman replies, calling him her brother and saying that it's her. She kindly explains that she's come to get him, but also to kill everyone else. Yuru is obviously confused, so he asks her what she's talking about because he doesn't understand anything, but there is no way that she's his sister. He immediately gets defensive and raises his bow to shoot her with an arrow, but the woman quickly dodges and counterattacks with another huge explosion. Meanwhile, Dara hides in the woods and sees the helicopters, noticing that they disguise themselves as mountain rescue choppers. He uses a gun to kill some of the enemies nearby, but he keeps an eye on the helicopters because he can't have them following him from above while he makes his escape. After a while advancing through the village, he comes across Gabby and sees the monster with her. Dara mentions that it has really beautiful teeth and then immediately points at it with his gun. Gabby realizes that he can actually see it, unlike others, and she quickly tries to attack him. Dara dodges the monster and tries to shoot Gabby, but she uses the monster to shield herself. The bullets are stopped by the monster's teeth, so Dara mentions that they have impressive enamel too. Gabby ignores his comment and just asks him if he killed the ground forces, but Dara takes her off guard by throwing a grenade at her. Back to Yuru, he ends up lying on top of some debris after the explosion, so the woman apologizes, saying that she only meant to break his arrow, but she's not used to this yet. When Yuru tries to stand, the Tamari ball he was saving for his sister falls and rolls until it ends up in front of her hand. Just then, Yamaha opens her eyes, and she sees the moment Asa's blood transforms into some kind of creature that takes a hold of the woman's arm. Yamaha immediately reacts and asks Dara to take Yuru and run. Before Yuru can react, Dara jumps into the building and grabs him, running away without giving him any explanations. Yamaha tells him that they have to hide in the world below, and he must not let them find them. Dara follows her instructions, and in the meantime, Danji finds his mother, clearly hurt, but alive at least. While he checks on her, he sees Yuru being taken away and just panics, having no idea what's going on. The helicopters are still surrounding the village, so Dara takes the shortcut from before, and after a while, he and Yuru come out of the Divine Guardian statues. He tells him that they're heading down the mountain now, but Yuru is still in shock from everything that's happened. He's having a hard time trying to process the situation, so Dara tries to drag him with him. However, he almost gets shot by one of the helicopters, so he immediately hides behind the statue again. Dara realizes that they missed their chance to escape, so he tries to shoot the helicopters with his gun. This obviously doesn't work, and the men on the helicopters are using high-caliber weapons, so they're clearly at disadvantage here. Dara mentions that if those dentures come back, they'll be flanked for sure, so the situation couldn't be any worse. worse. While he tries to think about what to do, Yuru is still in a state of shock, saying that Asa is dead. He starts questioning himself because of what he saw back there though, since he thinks he saw her move, but he's not sure. Yuru realizes that he left his granny behind too, and he starts wondering who that woman was, because she claimed to be his sister, but also said that she'd kill everyone, even though nobody's done anything wrong. Dara can see his inner turmoil, but the helicopters are still attacking, so he tells him that he doesn't have time to explain right now. Without wasting any more time, Dara gives Yuru a green pendant and asks him to use the left and right. Yuru has no idea what he means, so Dara explains that there is a hole in the flagstones between the left and right divine guardian statues, so he must stick the pendant in there. Yuru is still completely clueless, so he gets a little frustrated and says that he doesn't understand. Dara gets equally frustrated and tells him that it's a gift from him, so he just has to do it. Yuru doesn't know what's going on, but he grabs the pendant either way and heads to the flagstones between the left and right divine guardian statues, complaining about the fact that no one will explain anything to him today. He sees the hole Dara was talking about and immediately complains, saying that it is plugged with junk. Dara yells at him and simply asks him to dig it out in that case, because they don't have any time. The men on the helicopters see Yuru, so they order the others to capture him and eliminate the other villagers. Yuru quickly digs the junk out of the hole and Dara complains, saying that they should keep their place clean. After a few seconds, Yuru finally manages to get the pendant inside the hole, so Dara immediately grabs his head and smashes it against the flagstones with force. Yuru obviously complains and asks him what that was, but when his blood makes contact with the pendant, the right and left divine guardian statues start glowing brightly. Everything turns white for a second, leaving the men on the helicopters confused. Before they know it, the helicopters are shaken and destroyed by something they can't even see. Yuru sees golden creatures holding onto the helicopters and tearing them to pieces with wild strength, but he doesn't know what's going on himself. When the golden creatures harshly bite onto the rotor blades, the helicopters finally start falling. Dara immediately runs away with Yuru before they're crushed, and Gabby sees everything from afar and screams, saying that those helicopters were her ride home. That's the only thing she cares about though, because walking down this mountain is going to be awful for sure. She wonders whose demons those were and hopes that they're weak at least. When Yuru finally recovers after the blast, he hears another man speaking, saying that their new master apparently is a child, so he will be easy to control. The woman next to him reminds him that his age doesn't matter, because they must obey their master. Yuru stares at them in shock, and he soon realizes that they are in fact the right and left guardians. Dara explains that there isn't a single name for them since everyone calls them something different, whether it's ghosts, spirits, monsters, cryptids, aberrations, or pairs. Whatever their names truly are, Dara lets Yuru know that those two are his demons. In a change of scene, we see a fragment of the past when Yuru's father is showing him the passageway connecting the left and right to the keep. Yuru had no idea it existed, so his father explains that the Lord had this secret passageway made back when this village was a castle. He warns him that only a few people know about it, so he must not tell anyone about it, and he must use it only when he has to. When they get to the end of the passageway, Yuru's father tells him that the left and right bases at the village exit are above them. He also informs him that the left and right are always watching over him. Back to the present time, just as his father said, right and left let Yuru know that they've been watching him this whole time, and henceforth they are his demons. Yuru can only stare at them in disbelief, and Right decides to just tease him, saying that this crybaby is apparently their master. Left scolds him and warns him that he's upsetting their master, so he should stop teasing him like that. Right recognizes Dara as the demon retainer, and Left lets him know that they've been watching him too. Yuru is still too shocked to speak, and Right explains that they took down those birds since they seemed to be harming him, but they don't know what they were. Dara informs them that they're vehicles of the modern world below, but he clarifies that they don't have to chat about anything now. He mentions that at least 2 threats have shown up, so he wants them to help them get down the mountain quickly and safely. Right and Left remind him that he is not their master, and they only obey Yuru's orders. Dara gets a little frustrated and clarifies that he already knows that, but there is no time to explain the situation to him. Just after he says that, Gabby shows up and mentions that those demons look strong, so she wants to know whose demons they are. Yuru asks what that tooth monster behind her is, but Dara just panics when he realizes that Gabby already caught up, and she's perfectly fine even after he hit her with a grenade. Gabby just calmly walks towards them and asks them not to underestimate her demon's toughness. She sees Yuru and mentions that he must be Ace's brother, since he's 16 years old. Yuru corrects her and clarifies that he's 17, but Dara explains that by traditional counting, the world below considers him 16. When Gabby mentions Asa, Yuru can't help but remember all the disaster that happened in the village, and when that woman told him that she'd kill everyone. He then asks her if they're the ones who killed the villagers, and Gabby admits it without hesitation. Right and Left remind him that he just has to give the word, and they'll do whatever he commands. Yuru tells them that he won't command them to do anything, because they're the village's guardian deities, so he wouldn't dare give them orders. However, he does mention that he has 2 requests, and clarifies that if there are any survivors in the village, he wants them to take them to a safe place. His second request is that the runt is his, so he doesn't want them to touch Gabby. Lastly, Yuru tells them that they can do as they please aside from that. Right just laughs at his request, clearly clearly pleased, and he tells Left that they're really lucky since their new master is apparently hands-off. As they leave to follow Yuru's command, Asa is still dealing with the blood creature from before. She uses her free arm to throw Yamaha's body across the room, slamming her against the wall. The blood creature immediately releases her arm to protect Yamaha from the impact in time, so Asa decides to leave, not before telling her that they'll never forgive her and that she'll pay for what she's done. As soon as she exits the building, Asa notices Donji and his mother hiding somewhere in the village, but she decides not to do anything against them. Meanwhile, Wright gets really excited and jumps straight towards Gabby without hesitation. Gabby rapidly uses her demon as a shield, but Wright jumps right above her and informs Yuru that he'll take the remaining villagers to a safe place. He also asks Gabby to watch out, saying that his other half is hot-blooded. As soon as he says that, Gabby looks down and sees how Left slams her demons against a wall after kicking a rock at them. Left clarifies that she's just following her master's orders, doing as she pleases. Before Gabby can react, one of Yuru's arrows pierces straight through her leg, and he immediately prepares a second arrow. Gabby falls, but she manages to make her demons grab her in time to escape the place as soon as possible. Left admits that those demons are tough, since they survived her attack. Yuru quickly chases after them, and Left follows him without a doubt, despite Dara's complaints. Dara knows that he can't stop them at this point, so he quickly grabs the green pendant on the ground and follows them, hoping to convince them to get off this mountain already. In the meantime, the poor little girl who saw her mother getting beheaded and passed out wakes up after hearing Wright's voice. Wright notices that she's alive and wipes the blood off her face, saying that it must be someone else's blood since she's uninjured. The little girl sits up in confusion, looking around her to try to see who's talking to her. Just then, Wright remembers the fact that she can't see him, so he decides to make himself visible and tells her that he's not a monster, so she doesn't need to worry because he'll take her somewhere safe. Before he can even finish his sentence, the little girl simply passes out again, so Wright takes her to the other kids who also passed out when they saw him. Wright is a little hurt by their reaction because they all fainted as soon as they saw him, even though he was just trying to help. As he exits the building, he mentions that the enemy showed no mercy to the adults, but they didn't hurt the kids for some reason. Asa casually runs into him, and Wright can immediately tell that she can see him, unlike the other kids. However, without a word, she runs towards him and uses her power without holding back. Wright reacts just in time and counters the attack with a powerful shout that completely overpowers her. He then complains that she didn't even say a word, but he admits that she's got a dangerous power. Asa soon realizes that she doesn't have a chance against him, so she simply flees as soon as she gets the chance. Wright doesn't bother chasing after her because he has another task in hand, but he does complain about the fact that kids these days just don't listen. Meanwhile, Gabby tries to hide inside a building, using her demons as a door, but Left tries to open them with her strength alone. Gabby is having a hard time keeping them closed, and she can't believe that Left is actually overpowering them since it's two demons against one. Left soon manages to slide her hands between the demon's teeth, and with her sheer strength, she's capable of opening their teeth. Before Gabby can react, Yuru shoots her a second arrow that pierces her shoulder. Asa arrives just in time to take down the building with her power, making all the heavy debris fall on Left. She then quickly checks on Gabby, but Yuru points at them with his arrow and asks them not to move, wanting to know who they are. Asa tells him that she's his sister, but Yuru calls her a liar and clarifies that Asa is not that big. She explains that the world below has better access to nutrition, but Yuru then tells her that Asa doesn't glare like that. She simply admits that she's been through a lot, so she's a little jaded. After a second, Left easily comes out of the pile of debris like nothing happened, and Wright soon catches up to them, saying that it isn't good for family to fight. He lands right in front of Asa and informs Yuru that this girl's blood smells just like his, so they truly are siblings. Yuru is clearly shocked by the information, but he doesn't lower his guard and asks them who's the Asa up in the keep in that case. Without beating around the bush, Asa informs him that that girl is just an imposter. She then explains that 10 years ago, after their parents took her and fled the village, Yamaha and the others feared he'd run away too, so they created an imposter to keep him here. After all, he's a kind and caring older brother, so he wouldn't leave as long as Asa was still in the village. As she tells him this story, we see that the other Asa in the keep suddenly stands up, but she doesn't look human at all. Asa informs Yuru that the other one is fake, so they've been lying to him all his life. Yuru has a hard time trying to process this, and he still doesn't want to believe it, but Dara makes him lower his bow and talks to Asa, saying that now that they've had their touching reunion, she should finally back off. Yuru tries to protest, but Dara reminds him that he's the one they're after, and they still don't know what the allegedly real Asa is capable of, so if he stays, the village could suffer more damage. Yuru finally relents after hearing that, because he knows that there are still survivors, and he doesn't want to put them at risk. After he lowers his bow, he asks Asa and Gabby not to hurt any more villagers, and clarifies that he'll let them go, so they should withdraw. Asa surprisingly agrees, even though Gabby complains, so Yuru finally leaves with Dara, being followed by Wright and Left. As she treats her wounds, Gabby asks her why they aren't capturing him, and Asa explains that her wounds need tending, and they know that he's safe now. Gabby's demon suddenly rips the arrow off her shoulder, making her grunt in pain, but Gabby simply smiles and mentions that Asa's brother sure is merciless. She admits that he's skilled, and he's alive as well, though she says says that only to reassure Asa in some way. Asa soon starts tearing up, realizing that her brother is actually alive and well. Gabby just gives her some head pats as consolation, and she then notices that the barrier is returning, so they should get off the mountain quickly. We see that Yamaha is the one who takes care of restoring the barrier, while the other Asa stands quietly behind her, looking the same as before. In a change of scene, we see a couple of hikers at the old Higashi village trail, talking about the helicopters they heard before. The woman mentions that maybe someone needed rescuing, since a lot of people go missing in these mountains, and a bunch of them have never been found. The man tells her that it's probably like that spooky story, the one about the lost village. They say hikers suddenly wander into another world, and there's a village where there shouldn't be one, so even if they go back later, there's no trace of it. Just after he finishes the story, Dara cheerfully greets them and runs down the trail with Yuru. The couple assumes that they're mountain porters, or maybe traditional hunters. They're clearly not worried about them, but when right and left fly right above them, the couple panics at the strong wind that hits them, even if they can't see them, so they decide to hike back down immediately. Meanwhile, as they continue running, Dara mentions that they can't see the village anymore, so it must be back inside the barrier. Yuru asks him if that means they can't go back, and Dara clarifies that he could if he really wanted to, but someone who knew where to find it broke through the barrier. They were after him, so there is no point in hiding there now or going back, so they'll have to blend in with the crowd in the world below. After a while, they finally reach the end of the mountains, where Dara's co-worker, Hana, is waiting for them in a car. He thanks her for waiting for her, but Hana exits the car only to complain, saying that she knew he was bringing a human, but he didn't mention demons. Right and left soon realize that she can see them, and Dara apologizes for not telling her. He clarifies that he'll fill her in while they run, because they have to get out of here now, since Yuru is in danger. Hana assumes that Yuru is one of the twins, and Dara lets her know that those demons are left and right. As soon as they turn to look at them, they just see left and right inspecting her car with curiosity, wondering what it is, since it looks like just a hunk of metal. They're not even listening to them, so Hana decides to introduce herself, telling Yuru that she and Dara work together as demon retainers. Dara speaks to right and left, asking them if there are any demon wielders nearby. They inform them that there are none, so Dara sees it as the perfect opportunity to escape somewhere crowded. He asks Yuru to get in the car, but Yuru seems reluctant to do so, since he doesn't know what that thing is, and he doesn't want to get inside this bizarre contraption. Dara understands his confusion, so he tries to explain that it's called an automobile, a vehicle of the world below made of metal and stuff. His awful explanations aren't working at all, so Hana decides to start the engine and simply tells them that there are horses in the car, so it goes real fast. Right and left easily accept her simple explanation, so Yuru finally accepts and gets in the car. In the meantime, Gabby and Asa are out of the barrier in no time, so they're now waiting for their ride to get out of there. After a while waiting, Jin Kagomori finally arrives with a rescue group to transport Gabby. He mentions that he heard new demons showed up, so perhaps he should have come with them. As they load Gabby onto the stretcher, he asks her how her wounds are. Gabby calmly informs him that they've stopped bleeding, and mentions that she's got an arrowhead in her shoulder, so she hopes they can take it out later. She sits up without any help, and also tells him that the shot to her leg went straight through. Jin tells her that those are serious injuries, so she shouldn't talk about them like they're minor cavities. Gabby dismisses his concern, and tells him that she's fine, since she's used to pain. Leaving that aside, Jin assumes that Asa's brother got away, but Asa clarifies that they confirmed that he's alive and well. Jin mentions that they secured all the trailheads, but they didn't see him anywhere, so they must have escaped another way. There's also still a chance they're still on the mountain, but they lost 2 choppers and all their soldiers. Jin starts feeling a little frustrated because he knows that the old man won't be happy. Gabby tries to cheer him up and informs him that Asa's brother fled with a middle-aged guy called Dara, and he's probably the one who killed the soldiers too. As soon as he hears that name, Jin immediately knows that she's talking about the Tadera. He wonders why they had to choose a day when a Tadera demon retainer was around. Jin's expression changes abruptly, letting them know that he's now furious, and he thinks that he should have brought his demon after all. Meanwhile, Dara informs Hana that they released the left and right, took down some choppers, and knocked out the enemy demons on their way here. He mentions that he took out most of the soldiers he found, but there were a bunch of them. Hana can't believe that they even brought soldiers, and Dara explains that it's probably the Kagamoris. To make things worse, they know his face and name now, so he apparently will have to shave and move as well. Hana just complains, saying that she wanted to live her life in peace. After a while, left and right knock on the window and let them know that they sense demons approaching. Hana immediately panics, but left clarifies that they don't need to worry, since they mean no harm to them, and they're actually old friends. Just then, a beautiful woman on a white steed floating in the air shows up to greet left and right, saying that it's good to see them again. She mentions that if they're here, it's probably because they found a new master. Right and left affirm that, and they mention that they haven't been down the mountain in so long, they have no idea what's going on, since it's been about 400 years. Right lets her know that Yuru is their new master, and the woman seems pleased to know that since she loves children. He informs her that Yuru is one of the twins dividing night and day, but the woman remains silent for a moment, and then says that that won't be easy. She asks them what they'll do now, and Right tells her that they're not sure, since it seems they'll be hiding in a lively village. The woman finally finally leaves and asks them to tell her about it when they return. In the meantime, Dara and Hana completely freak out because that's the first time they've seen them. Yuru just asks them what those things are, but Dara and Hana immediately scold him, asking him not to call them things. They inform him that that was Oshirasama, a legit god on a whole other level from their average demon. They never thought they'd see them while they were still alive, and they're really glad to be alive now. Left and right just complain about their reaction because they don't understand the disparity in treatment. Hana mentions that there are kinds of demons and humans, just like sorting them into genres, as in types or categories like gods or spirits. Some live relaxed lives alongside humans, like Oshirasama, others bring luck to their masters, and some encourage criminal activity. Dara says that those dentures that attack them were probably a combat type, since the upper and lower jaw form a pair. He's even heard of demons gobbling up their masters if they don't like them. In a change of scene, we see the rescue team carrying Gabby out of the mountains. Despite how things went, Jin assures them that the old man will be happy to know that Yuru is alive and off the mountain. He asks them if the demons were really that strong, and Gabby affirms that, but she clarifies that it was Ace's brother who shot her with a bow. He first shut down her mobility and then her dominant hand, so he definitely has the mind of a hunter. Once the sun goes down, it starts raining in the mountains, and two soldiers who survived are trying to get out of there. However, after walking endlessly, they soon realize that they've been at the same spot 5 times already, which means they can't leave the mountain at all. Yuru is still in Hana's car, trying to process everything, but his eyes light up when he sees the city lights for the very first time.